Day 3 on board of MV Nordstjernen, and today we're going south again. And today we have 4 different destinations. We start in the morning with a glacier, the Lillehook Glacier, and then we go to Camp Zoe, New London and Ny-Ålesund. And here on the map you can see our route that we're gonna take today. I start again at a glacier. This is the Lillehook Glacier. It's one of the biggest and most impressive glaciers. And now I'm gonna let you listen to the amazing sounds of a glacier. Yeah, amazing sounds. And with this perfect view, it was time for breakfast. And after that, we headed to Camp Zoe. And as always, already the way there was amazing. And you can also see how much ice there is on our way. And that is because Lillehook is a very active glacier. And on our way we passed the so-called Cardio Mountain. It is called Cardio Mountain because its shape looks like the lines from a cardiogram. Here we can see the full mountain and here you can see the shape of it, and you can see that it looks kind of like a cardiogram. And the direct opposite of the Cardio Mountain is Camp Zoe, our next destination. And there we had a bigger hike planned for today. On the landings so far, we always stayed very close to where we arrived with the tenders, but this time there was a proper hike planned and that was supposed to take several hours, so you need to be really fit for this, because of course also this time you needed to stay as close as possible to your guide. So in case somewhere during this hike you realize the way is too steep, or for whatever else reason you cannot continue, that would mean that the whole group needs to go back, because you cannot go back on your own as you need to be close to the guide. So that's why they announced it multiple times that this excursion will be exhausting today, so you need to be fit for it, and they also offered an easier hike for everybody who decided to not join the full hike. And once again, I said it last time, but you cannot say this often enough, it is not a cruise, it is an expedition. That's something completely different. And here we can see the cardio mountain one more time, and in my opinion it looks more like an artwork than like an actual mountain. And here in the background we can still see the Lilyhook Glacier, so here you can see again how big it is. And then it was time to lower our tenders, and shortly after we headed ashore. So this was still very close to where we landed, and this is the actual hut of Camp Zoe. That's all of it, and here you can see a sign. It says that you may not look inside or even go inside, privacy reasons of course. And here you can see some droppings of an animal. What's quite unique about this is that it's possible that these droppings are a few years old because of the permafrost and the cold temperature. It's not rotting, it gets frozen, so it can stay for a long time. And here you can also see some remains of a reindeer. And then it was time to start our hike. And now I can also show you one more time some of the plants, the small and tiny plants that you can see on Svalbard. And then it was time to actually start our hike. You can see there's a mountain in the background, and that's our destination for today. And already at this position the ship was quite far away, and you can also see, of course, there are no hiking paths on Svalbard, so you just walk across the stones. And there are even some mushrooms on Svalbard. And here you can see a group that was in front of us, and you can see our way up is quite steep, and it gets even steeper. You will see another group that is even further, because this time we were in the very last group and the very last tender. So we had many groups in front of us, and here you can see a group that already almost made it to the top. And once again here you can see it is very steep and of course uneven ground, so it is a challenge to get up here, and that's why you need to be fit to do this excursion. But for me it was very nice to have a bit more of a physical excursion this time, and the view on the top was absolutely worth it. Here you can see the amazing view with our beautiful ship in the background, and we still can see the Lilyhook Glacier, and I think here you can see even better how big this actually is, and of course also the Cardio Mountain is visible. And here we can see our beautiful ship from the mountain, and I think it looks as if it was made for exactly this place. It fits perfectly in the landscape, much better than the new ships. And here you can see the first group already almost back at the ship, whilst we were still on top of the mountains enjoying the view. But then it was also time for us to head back to the ship, and this time we took a different route. We went down on the other side of the mountain to not take the same way twice, and we went down into a former valley of a glacier. Nowadays there's just a small stream, but it used to be a glacier. And of course it's not the best thing to be in the last group, because if there have been some animals by the time that the last group arrives, they're most probably already gone. But it was not too bad, because we were the only group that actually got some proper sun on our way back to the ship. And our German guide Charlotte was taking a lot of time for us. Even though they already asked what time she will arrive with us, she still took all the time she needed to explain everything to us, to show us everything. And that's also why I always went with the German group, because in the restaurant I specifically asked for an English speaking table. For me it's just more interesting, and also many times I had bad experiences with German speaking tables on cruise ships, because sometimes unfortunately Germans tend to be very negative and to always focus on negative things, and that most of the times didn't happen on the English tables. So that's why I usually ask for an English table. But our tour guide Charlotte was amazing, so I love to stick with her guided tours. And meanwhile we are back on the ship. Here we have another glacier during the lunchtime, and then we headed to our next destination, which was Ny-Ålesund. So of course that translates to New London, but if you will see it later on, you immediately see that this has absolutely nothing in common with London. And here you can see some buildings. That is already Ny-Ålesund, our destination for the evening, which is actually just opposite of Ny-London, just on the other side of the fjord. And it is one of the northernmost settlements in the world, and it's the northernmost city in the world. And nowadays it's a big station for research and science, because here in Svalbard the climate change is 4 times faster and stronger than in the rest of the world, so it is the perfect place to do some research about the climate change. And nowadays there are scientists from about 20 countries doing some researches there. And for us it was time to head ashore again, our next landing, and this time we went to New London. Here you can see a plane that is going to Ny-Ålesund. Ny-Ålesund does have an airstrip, but it's not an airport, so there are no scheduled flights for tourists. These are only supply flights, so they bring the supplies to Ny-Ålesund. And of course also the scientists can use it, but it's not open for tourists, so the northernmost airport is still in Longyearbyen. And here you can see a locomobile that's very similar to a locomotive, slightly different, and it was used here in New London because New London used to be a marble mine, and they used this locomobile to bring the marble from the mine to the harbor. And there was a lot of money invested, as you can see on the remains, but it was a huge fail because they only extracted 2 tons of marble, put it on a ship, and when the ship set sail and left Svalbard, it just fell apart and became sand. Even though they checked the quality of the marble and thought it was a very good quality, they forgot that here in Svalbard they have the permafrost, so the whole marble was just held together by permafrost, and as soon as it heated up, it just fell apart and became sand, and immediately after New London was abandoned. And then it was time for some ice swimming. Here you can see a picture of me in the water. It was also possible yesterday, but there I refused to do it. But then I thought to myself that I would be very disappointed and sad at home if I would not at least give it a try, so I wanted to do it. And actually it was very nice. The only downside, of course, you need to take off your clothes, and usually you start with taking off the shoes. Already before going into the water, you're standing on the cold stones for a few minutes, then you're in the cold water, then you go back out, dry yourself, put back on the clothes. So it's several minutes that you're standing on the cold stones. So the swimming itself was very nice, but it took several minutes and a hot shower until I could feel my feet again. But still, I really recommend it to you. If you have the chance to go ice swimming, really do it. It's absolutely worth it and a great experience. And then it was time to go to Ny-Ålesund, but we didn't go directly there. We took a detour because very close by is a mountain that's well known that there are many birds. So we went there to do some bird watching, and we got one more time extremely lucky because we got to see some Arctic foxes. They're usually really hard to spot because in summer they are brown just like the landscape, and in winter they are white just like the landscape. But we arrived exactly in the time where the Arctic foxes already turned white, but there was no snow yet, so they were pretty visible, and we got very lucky and even saw two of them. Here you can see it in the middle of the shot. You see the white dot walking. If you look closely, you can clearly see that this is an Arctic fox. There were also many reindeers, but this time we were focusing on the Arctic fox because they are very rare, at least very rarely seen. And then I spotted a second one. Here you can see it a bit further away, but still you can see the movement of the second Arctic fox. And after arriving at home and checking my pictures, I actually realized that I even saw two more of them, because at the Cardio Mountain in the morning, one of my group from Australia said that he spotted two Arctic foxes, but I really could not see them. I tried my best, but there was no chance to see them. But it turned out in the end I took a picture of them because I found them in the background of a picture I took of the Cardio Mountain. And then we were sailing past another glacier, so I stayed at the bow, was hoping to see some more animals, birds, and just watching the beautiful landscape. And then all of a sudden a friend of mine from my table in the restaurant came to the bow pretty fast, and I was wondering why he's not wearing a jacket, where he left his camera, so I thought maybe he spotted something spectacular and wanted to tell me. But it turned out that I got so distracted by the beautiful landscape that I almost missed the dinner. They already served the start, and they told on the table if I'm not showing up they will have to remove it. So he thought that I'm at the bow. Luckily he found me and told me, otherwise I would have missed the dinner. And then of course I went straight inside to the restaurant and kept watching the beautiful landscape from the restaurant window. And as you can see, there is a huge amount of ice, so that means the glacier that we are passing now is a very active glacier. And straight after the very nice dinner we arrived in Ny-Ålesund, and that was the first time that we did not have to use the tenders. We could just dock there, and also it was our first stop where we could walk around freely without our guides, because the locals have a very good connection to our Nordstjernen, because we are bringing also some supplies to them, and so they took care of the polar bear watch, so we could walk around freely within the city boundaries. But first we were offered a guided tour around the city, and of course once again I joined Charlotte for a little walk around Ny-Ålesund. Here you can see a statue of Roald Amundsen. Roald Amundsen, of course, a well-known explorer, and he started with an airship from here to go to the North Pole. Here you can see the pole where his airship was anchored, and from here he started some of his expeditions. And then there are 3 things that I really recommend you doing in Ny-Ålesund: visiting the shop, getting some unique souvenirs from the northernmost city in the world, send some postcards to get the northernmost postmark in the world. You can get the stamps and the postcards in the shop, and then I really recommend going to the northernmost pub in the world. Unfortunately, they are really strict when it comes to photography because it's strictly forbidden, so there are no shots from inside, but we stayed there quite a while, had 1 or 2 or maybe more Ny-IPAs, which is the northernmost beer in the world, the Ny-Ålesund IPA, especially brewed for Ny-Ålesund. And after that we arrived just in time before the ship left, and then we headed back to Longyearbyen, and this time there was a slight storm, so there was a bit bigger waves. And just let me crash a myth for you. I know that there's the myth, if the ship is moving and you drink alcohol, it will balance it out and you feel stable again, but I can promise you it's not true. It's the opposite. Movement of the ship and the movement from drinking will double itself, so you will have even more problems. So don't drink to get the feeling that the ship is moving less, it will move more. And that's it for day 3. I hope you enjoyed this video. Here you can see the name of the song and when my next English video is planned, the last day on board. And as always, I'd like to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider to like, comment, subscribe or share the video link, and I'll see you in the next video.